for Chaz, at least that's a slow crash. Shouldn't do too much damage to the bike. He'll probably just come back into the pits, get it double checked, and get himself back out there again. You can see the red band on that rear tyre as well. So Chaz out there on the SCX tyre, the super soft compound tyre. So he would have been out there trying to push for a lap time at the end of this session. You're just going to see the front fold away from underneath Davis as he comes through the right-hander, probably just as he starts to tap on the gas through there.
And the slowest corner, as you say, of this circuit, so hopefully no ill to the machine, and Davies is close enough to the pit lane as well to be able to come back in and presumably then get back out onto track. But it looks as though he's not going to be alone in going down. That's a very frustrated looking Tito Rabat, who has joined the asphalt and at exactly the same place, and probably a similar crash to Chaz Davies.
Yeah, you'd imagine. So it's easy to have a crash through there, and typically with those front end crashes, it's just as you get off the brake or as you open the gas, and just as that weight transfers. And you can see for Chaz come straight back into the pits just to get that bike checked over, and then he'll go pretty much straight back out again. You can just wait and see whether or not they take that back into the pits just to get it rechecked. But for Davis, as it is now, with just under 4 minutes left in the session, still enough time to be able to get back out there and then try and set a couple of fast times at the end of the session.
So 3.5 minutes then remaining on the clock as we get a little bit of action in the closing minutes. Certainly was action-packed in the Super Sport free practice earlier on today, with loads of incidents as riders continue to try and push the envelope. And we've had a couple of spills in the closing minutes of this session as well, with first Chaz Davies and then immediately after Tito Rabat. And Rabat looked pretty frustrated about that, to put it mildly.
Yeah, for Tito there is a lot of frustration there. He's down 12th fastest in this session, 12th fastest in the combined times. He's about 1.2 seconds off the pace right now, and you can see him just stalking his way back into the pits, and eventually gets himself a lift back from one of the marshals. But that'll be a bit disappointing for Tito, because he'll know the importance of being able to come away with something good this weekend. It's obviously been a pretty tricky start for his World Superbike career.
Tito Rabat finding himself outside of the top 10 positions, and I can't imagine that at the start of this season he was going to be expecting to find himself scrapping outside of the top 10 places. That is the situation at present. Free practice 2.5 minutes now remaining. See if anyone can put in some faster times later on. Doesn't look like it at the moment. Fairly humdrum last few minutes aside from those two incidents.
Yeah, we'll wait and see if anyone in their final couple of laps really does start to put in some decent sector times. You can see here with Haslam and Locatelli that they're starting to show some improvements and potentially move themselves up. It looks like the lap time's gone away from both of them at this stage. Garrett Gerloff actually quite fast. Alvaro Bautista though down again. We saw him with 3 crashes on Friday in Estoril, and now he's his first of the weekend.
It looks like that's turn 4 for Alvaro Bautista. So Bautista going down, and struggles for Team HRC continue.
Yeah, turn 4 could be very easy to lose the front end through there. There is a little dip on the run down in towards that corner, so it can be one of those corners that does suck the rider in quite a bit, and you tend to see a lot of times when the rider loses the front end through there, just tries to carry a little bit too much speed and then loses the front end and tucks as they come into that right-hander.
Garrett Gerloff was up at the halfway mark on his latest lap, but the lap time has gone away from him, so it doesn't look as though Gerloff's going to be able to improve at this time around. 1 minute 35.469, his fastest time of this session. Remember, he was up there in 3rd fastest this morning with a 1:34.923, so he's certainly got the time in his pocket, but not so far this afternoon, so perhaps a longer run for Gerloff as well.
Yeah, for Gerloff here at the end of the session, it's about trying to see if he can get some good information. We know that Toprak's out in a longer run. Toprak able to put in a lot of laps in this session. I think he's already done 22 laps at this stage in the session as well. So a lot of laps for Toprak and good information for him as well. He's actually still churning out pretty fast times in the 1 minute 35 bracket as well.
And that's the consolation, I suppose, for Rabat, that he'd got over 20 laps in as well. So he only loses the final few minutes and an opportunity to set a fast time for headlines at the end. It shouldn't affect his the context of the weekend, shouldn't really affect him too greatly. 30 seconds then before the checkered flag falls. Opportunity to start one final lap for those who meet the line, of course, before we get to 0. Garrett Gerloff again in line for a new personal best on his latest lap. And Chaz Davies is also back up and running, of course, after his earlier spin.
Yeah, just looking at it, Lucas Maia still now inside the top 10 in the combined times as well. And Maia's about a second off the pace. He had a crasher, obviously, earlier in the session, but able to get himself back out there and setting pretty respectable lap times in that Kawasaki.
and can confirm that Alvaro Bautista has now remounted and moved away, but that will be the end, of course, of his session as the checkered flag falls. Then Leon Haslam we now pick up, looking to set a new personal best for this session, move himself provisionally inside the top 10 if he can hold on to it through the final sector. He now comes to the line to end his free practice 2 session, and Haslam goes 9th. Can see that Toprak Razgatlioglu has pulled off at the side of the circuit on turn 5, so not sure whether that's Toprak just coming to an end of his session or whether he might have a mechanical problem after the checkered flag there. But Razgatlioglu 4th fastest in this session. Rinaldi, Lowe's, Ray, Razgatlioglu and Redding this afternoon. And as far as the overalls, that's Rinaldi, Lowe's, Razgatlioglu, Ray, and then Garrett Gerloff. So Gerloff with a new personal best on his final lap of free practice 2 there, 1:35.396, but not quite able to match his time from FP1.